This entitled grandmother has been faking her niceness for years, but she's about to reveal her true colors in a shocking accusation to her granddaughter, who was left running and crying in tears. Happy birthday, today's your birthday, and on with the revamped show. I make art as a hobby, metal sculptures. I only sell them when I need a bit of money for something. I had a holiday coming up, so I listed one here on TradeMe, an auction site, for a $1 reserve. The auction lasted 10 days, and the piece got quite a bit of interest in that time, with lots of people adding it to their watch list and bidding on it. It ended up selling for a bit over $500. Perfect. I contacted the winner with my bank details and asked for their delivery address. No reply. Email again. Nothing. I look into his profile a bit, and sure enough, he doesn't follow through on half the things he buys. Fair few grumpy feedbacks from other sellers. He's a complete time waster. I've already had to pay for a listing fee, advertising fee, and $40 success fee. I'll eventually get this back, but I'm still annoyed. And being in limbo on a deal sucks. You kind of expect the money, and kind of don't at the same time. Got me raging. I Google his email. Nothing. I check if he has any listings for sale. He doesn't at the moment. Besides giving him bad feedback, there's not really much else I can do right now. I add him as a favorite seller. This way, next time he lists something, I'll get emailed about it, but he never does. About a year later, after I'd forgotten all about it, I get a bunch of emails from TradeMe telling me Time Waster has new listings. Seems Time Waster is packing up shop and moving to Australia. Seems everything's got to go, mate. Ironically, his listings state that everything must be picked up by the end of August as I'm moving to Australia. No time wasters. He's got listings for a car, motorcycle, tools, a welder, some furniture, rims, and a bunch of other stuff. I give his feedback another quick look to see if he's changed his ways. He hasn't. Over the following week, I research what a good price would be for everything he lists. I share all his listings with my friends and get them to add his listings to their watch list, so he thinks they are popular. I instruct them to go on a bidding war with me on each item up to a certain amount, but no further. I win all of his auctions using a bunch of false accounts. Lucky guy gets top dollar for everything. I reply all the auction winning email confirmations from the various accounts, arranging different pickup times for the goods, agreeing to pay cash on pickup for everything. As the week goes on, I cancel, reschedule, rain check, and delay every pickup, bearing in mind I'm pretending to be a different person for each item from different SIM cards. On the day I arranged to pick up the car, it had been agreed previously that he could continue to use his car up until 2 days before leaving for Australia, because I'm a nice guy like that. I text him that I'm on my way to see you at 1. I was late, of course. Nearly there, mate. See you soon. Half an hour later, 5 minutes away. 20 minutes later, I'm here, where are ya? Ignored the text messages and waited for the call. Where are ya? Annoying, isn't it? What do you mean? You know, having someone bid on your auction with no intention of buying it. Are you freaking kidding? No, I remember being quite annoyed when you did it to me. Who? When? I'll let you figure that one out. Click. Over the next few hours, I called him as the welder buyer. Annoying, isn't it? The motorbike buyer. Annoying, isn't it? Outdoor furniture buyer. Annoying, isn't it? All of them. To top it off, I gave him positive feedback on everything I bought, saying he was a top trader, A+++. Easy pickup, good communication. In the coming weeks, I was contacted by TradeMe regarding his dispute. He was wanting to get the success fees back, over $500 altogether, I'd guess. I responded to each one of those with the fact that I had already paid and picked it up and was happy with the item. Not sure if he got all those success fees back, but I very much doubt it. If there's one characteristic that this guy has, it's commitment. If most people get ripped off by someone or a business, of course they're going to be annoyed, but most people weigh up how annoyed they are with the inconvenience of then doing something about it, and most people tend not to bother. This dude holds out for an entire year until the perfect moment. He's basically listing everything as he's about to travel overseas. He even had the good conscience to check his reviews, see if he's changed his behavior or not. From everyone who's had to deal with time wasters on those marketplace websites, we salute you. So this happened when I worked at a big name auto parts store, and our store was one of 8 franchises under a family name. The main owner owned 6 of the 8, and I had the displeasure of working at one of the 2 his son owned. Our owner was cheap. I mean, there was no security, no safe for nightly deposits, no camera, and the inventory was always screwed up because this guy was constantly transferring goods between stores, didn't offer health insurance, and didn't pay very well, even for auto parts stores standard, and the owner would make offhanded comments about why I, a woman, got my promotion because being a certified mechanic was qualifying enough. Now this particular year I had made assistant manager and our store crushed sales all year long. All our stores were doing very well, so imagine our surprises when in late October our store owner rolled up on a brand new Harley Davidson motorcycle and tells us because the company didn't perform as well as he'd hoped that there was no budget for a Christmas party or even a Christmas bonus. We were just deflated. The owner took the store manager into the office to show him numbers and make suggestions how we could do better for the next year, so I went outside to chat at a coworker and friend while he smoked. We stood out there, angrily glaring at this motorcycle, when suddenly I got an idea and gleefully informed my friend of my intentions. In the back was a bottle of motor oil that had broken towards the top and was unsellable, and like I said, our inventory was a mess, so it wasn't even documented in the computer being down a bottle. So I grabbed it up, took it outside while my buddy played lookout, and dribbled some oil around the crankcase of the bike, and then poured a large puddle onto the ground just below the crankcase, and hurried back to the back door where my buddy stood to watch the fireworks. The owner left the store, gets out to his precious motorcycle, and sees the oil, and went from 1 to global meltdown in 5 seconds flat. He went right into screaming at thin air about his brand new bike, then got his phone out and proceeded to call the Harley dealership, and we could hear him lose his crap at the poor sucker on the other line, calling this poor soul every name in the book, and even some he made up on the spot, as if it was this person who assembled his bike at the factory. He kept this guy on the phone, yelling and complaining the entire time he waited for the tow truck. The tow truck gets there, and as the driver is mounting the bike on his specialized lift, our store owner is screaming at him about how he can't believe he spent X amount of dollars for a motorcycle that breaks down after a week of ownership. I felt kinda bad for the treatment these poor people received. Working in shops, I know it's never fun when the vehicle owner wants to blame you for their breakdown. Well, a week passes and I came into work almost forgetting about the shenanigans we pulled when I see my manager hang up the phone and he's laughing his butt off. Turns out he knew the shop manager at the Harley dealership our owner bought his bike at. Apparently, our owner got to the Harley dealership shop, threw his keys at the service manager on duty, called him a bunch of names, and stormed out. My manager told me his buddy saw some oil on the chrome and crankcase, but after washing it down, they found there were no leaks, and when he called the owner and informed him of such, he declared he was wrong, even though this service manager was a Harley Davidson certified tech, and that the engine be torn down and inspected. Dude told my owner that there was nothing wrong, and with the amount of oil that the owner claimed to have been spilled, the level would have been low, and the oil level was dead nuts on. Well, due to his crappy behavior, the owner was charged for everything. The tow truck hookup and mileage, which was 38 miles from our store, and a diagnostic fee. My manager knew I had something to do with the prank, but never said anything, because he hated his job there, and the owner, as much as I did. Even better, a few months after I left that job, I get a call from the local PD, saying the store had been robbed the night before, and he was touching base with all employees current and past. I laughed and told the cop that there was no security, and more than likely the back door was left slightly propped, and the thief was able to stroll through and take all the cash that sat at the office desk drawer, and goodness knows what tools, seeing how the inventory was never correct. The officer laughed and told me due to the lack of protection, he wasn't going to invest a ton of time on the case, but also suspected it was an inside job, but there would be no way to prove it with no cameras, security system, or even decent locks on the doors. You'd think that security would be the #1 investment investment a business would make, considering it could be one of your biggest liabilities. In this story, as in many I suppose, I don't think the person getting the revenge imagined it would go as far as it did. They probably saw it as just a small prank that would scare the boss, because if he did just the smallest check himself, he would have seen that it wasn't actually broken. But when one thing leads to another, you can imagine it's pretty easy to just sit back and enjoy the show. Imagine being there witnessing the owner, where in his mind it changes in an instant from completely justified and outraged to completely foolish that nothing was wrong with his motorbike. My family from my dad's side has always been very entitled, but it took a long time for me to notice, because when I was a kid, they treated me like a princess, as I was the first grandchild, and I only started to notice that they were like that when they said really bad things about my mum. I love my mother more than anything. She's the only one who understands and accepts me as I am. Or when my first cousin was born, because by then I was old news. The only one in their family that isn't entitled is my grandfather, who is a great man, even though he has done some really bad stuff himself, not to me. Back when I was maybe 8 or 9, my parents were having some really bad marital problems. They would fight for the smallest things, and it didn't help that my dad was, and is, an alcoholic. Things took a turn for the worse, and he started sleeping on the couch. After that, there was this day I thought my grandmother came to visit. I was really happy, so I opened the window to say hi, and this is what followed. "Hi Grandma." "Hello, can I speak to your mother?" "Sure." I called my mother and went back to the living room to play with my dollhouse, so I could leave them to have their adult talk. A few moments later, I recall hearing them screaming at each other, and then my mum came into the living room. "Honey, go kiss your grandma goodbye." "Okay." I ran to the window and my mum went to the kitchen, probably to relieve some stress, now that I think about it. As I was about to kiss my grandmother, she pulled back and looked me dead in the eye and then said, "It's your fault." "What?" "It's all your fault." "Fault of what?" "If you weren't such a spoiled and selfish child and learned to sleep on your own bed, your father wouldn't have to sleep on the sofa, and maybe your parents wouldn't be always fighting with each other either." I've always had a lot of nightmares when I was a kid, so I ended up sleeping with my parents. I didn't mean to. I was in shock. I still remember the sadness I felt when she said that. "If your parents get divorced, it will be your fault. I hope you're happy." And with that, she left, and I ran to my room crying. I told my mum what happened and she got furious. She told my dad, and I think he talked to my grandmother, because she never brought it up again. After all that, my mum took me to McDonald's to try and cheer me up, and that's why she's the best. There doesn't seem to be any reason or logic behind the grandmother blaming the child. My guess would be is that she had some of her own issues, and probably deep down, maybe blamed herself for the problems in her child's marriage. Perhaps she thought maybe there was something she was supposed to do and she didn't do that. Obviously that's just speculation. She might just be a terrible person and want to blame children for all the problems that are in her life. It's very natural though to want to blame somebody or pin something on somebody. We can't have a situation just be a sucky situation because the world sucks sometimes. We have to have a reason or a cause that it's happening. But to blame a child as the reason that two parents' relationship isn't going well is all kinds of messed up. A lot of people don't really think about this, but the parent's responsibility is not only to the child, but to also maintain a healthy relationship with your partner. I know parents who put a huge priority on their relationship first, and that actually makes the job of raising children that much easier for them. I know not every family situation is as simple as that, but I do think it's something to strive for. Submit your story to be read on the channel at voiceyherestories@gmail.com and join our Voicey veteran community at r/VoiceyHere. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. Alright Voicey veterans, I'll see you in the next one.